Unconventional Life, welcome. This is your host, Jules Schroeder, tuning in today from our in-person podcast studio. We've got a very special episode today. I've got both of my sisters with me, Mary Butte and Raya Slavin in the house. Ladies, are we ready to take them down the path less traveled?
Yeah, we are. Oh, we were born ready.
Super excited. We were talking in the beginning how Raya, I gave her a nickname back in the day, and it was Chen.
No. That was just family.
Family internal.
Just so you know, that episode that I did appear on that I was talking about, I was Raya. But now everyone knows.
Okay, great. That was episode 100. And here we are, almost about to hit the 500 episode mark, 10 years in the making. And we've got some excited stuff that's been happening behind the scenes with Unconventional Life that many of our listeners may or may not know. One of the most exciting things is we're going to start segmenting in person, which is awesome. And we're also launching the Jules King Show in honor of my music, which if you haven't seen that first single, Letting It Go, check it out. It came out October 24th. I got another one coming out December 12th. And we're going to give these people a giveaway because we're doing some really exciting things. But I wanted our listeners to know a bit behind our story. Obviously, we're 3 of 5. And we have a company together called Pink Lemon Agency, which is a creative marketing agency that supports high-powered brands, creatives, entrepreneurs, and amplifying their voice and visibility. And we also come from a lot of distinct backgrounds. So let's kick this party off.
Well, I'm Mary. I'm generally considered the weird or eclectic sister. My background is as a professional circus artist specializing in handstands and hula hoop juggling. So it's super niche. Basically, I can stand on my hands and juggle hula hoops with my feet, and I'm really obsessed with doing that. I moved to Belgium 10 years ago and actually just moved back to Colorado after spending many years touring shows in Europe and having done 3 years of professional training school there as well. And I moved back with my husband and my baby
Noah.
And in all of that time as a circus artist, I really grew up with this idea, especially when I decided to pivot into circus, that somehow by choosing an artistic path, I was compromising my opportunities to be wealthy one day, to make money, to have freedom and independence. And when the pandemic hit, I started digital marketing, and suddenly my entire life changed because I realized that I was capable of generating a remote income from anywhere in the world. And it was as if more of my gifts came online. I wasn't just somebody who was obsessed with circus, but somebody who could actually had the power to express in multiple modalities. And all of that has translated into a career and a joy of personal branding and helping others elevate their level of expression through very deep and anchored authenticity of just writing permission slips for people to be who they are and be so fully online.
Yeah. And, I definitely remember all the years growing up, and we're 2 years apart. And, I would watch you in this, what we'll call this starving artist conversation, where it was like being addicted to your own suffering of, if I'm going to make my art, it's not doing it for the money. It's not about this. And then watching, you like spending 8 hours a day training a trick, viewing on one arm, and then still like how to actually make the lifestyle work with your passion. And that's definitely, listeners, something we want to get into, which is this concept of lifestyle freedom, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And, I'm curious just on that. And then Raya, I want to turn it over to you as well, is what did you learn in terms of some of the barriers you believed were there? Because I remember even getting you connected with a mutual friend of ours, Jolie Dawn, who some of you might know. And, you were surprised how much you enjoyed it, and then surprised how quickly your scalability of income became, and then ultimately how it became just as much of a passion, in a completely different way than your circus arts.
I think the barrier and objection conversation is really multi-layered. We have the barriers we grew up with, then we have the barriers we impose on ourselves. And like you said, Jules, you become addicted to a belief system and addicted to a way of being. It's almost as if not having money became part of my identity. And I was afraid of being judged by others for wanting more. And being in a community of circus artists, I was terrified of putting myself out there, being considered as somebody who somehow cared about wealth. And with that, I had a lot of hindrances in my ability to be visible and to connect myself to the root of my desires. I think when we deny a part of ourselves, that actually more is possible over and over and over again, month after month, year after year, we start to shrink the weight of that desire. And actually, that desire is the most powerful current and currency that we have, and the most powerful thing that we can bring forward. It was like I was so married to my objections that I couldn't even get to the point where I was willing to do the work. And when I started to have a taste of the joy that lived beyond that, that's when the real work began of actually deconstructing some of the beliefs I had and really connecting to the core reality that we can choose our belief systems in this lifetime. I learned about nervous system regulation, how to actually rewire on a somatic level so that I can really be in choice and agency.
Yeah, absolutely. Raya, I know you definitely have your own experience with that as well, and even your own journey into, especially with belief system and what this has been like for you as well.
I absolutely have my own version of it. And I think you touched on it a little bit, but you were saying, these beliefs, where do they come from? They don't come from nowhere. And I think what's so cool about us being sisters is that we grew up in the same context. And I can tell you how many times I remember hearing our dad, who was working on Wall Street in this very official, made it career and just set the standard of the family that we are not slackers. We're going to rise, immigrant background. We're going to overcome our circumstances and really bootstrap ourselves and make something of our life. And so it was not in the conversation. It wasn't an option at all to be an artist. And I heard Dad so many times throwing shade at the starving artist, but to give credit to him, that career where you were an artist and you were making a good living off of that there were not many examples of that when he grew up. And It was so much harder than it is today to be a well-paid artist. So I think that he was genuinely trying to keep us safe based on the opportunities that he was observing that were available during his time. But I remember choosing a career for myself, and it was time to go to college, and I always loved art. It was my absolute favorite thing to do. I started painting as a child, and it was just one of those things where I would lose track of time and I would lose myself in the craft, and to create masterpieces was just something that was so meaningful for me. And to do that as a career was really never on the table. It was like a hobby, or it was a elective class, but that's really the amount of space that it had. And so I chose the safe degree, quote unquote safe. I got a psychology degree. And I really didn't think that I was ever going to have art be a career. And so Jules, I know I've shared this with you, but to be such a big part in giving me a career as an artist and kickstarting my career, Jules was founding Unconventional Life at the time I was in college, and she was like, "Hey, you love art, you love web design, right? You love art. I need these websites."
I was like, I can teach you the basics.
Yeah, and
I taught myself doing it. It was way less sexy back then. We did not have these plug and play Squarespace templates. It was WordPress on not even Reddit threads. It was deep in the archives.
It was actually a lot harder to learn web design at the time. Yeah. And if you had a question, you could not get a step-by-step ChatGPT solution.
Video guide. It was forums, text heavy, non-picture assisted forums.
I was digging through the threads of Reddit every time I found a hurdle. I was watching tutorials where the people were based in Bangladesh. They were trying to explain this how to navigate JavaScript and WordPress and all these things. Yeah. It was a lot harder back in the day, but I was so motivated because I wanted to express myself through doing what I loved. And so every hurdle was an opportunity to get closer to something that I was really yearning for. And to be able to be a part of Unconventional Life in the early days and build web design was such a meaningful thing for me. I still continued getting my psychology degree and was convinced I was going to go to grad school.
I kept trying to hire her out. I was like, can we just fast forward through this process? But you needed to go through your own journey. And I think that's something for our listeners is every part of the journey, every season matters. Spring is extraordinary because of fall, and winter because of summer, and the contrast of it. And without having the culmination of experiences, it's, you can't choose for yourself, and the readiness and the timing, which Absolutely. I think there's something, so important about the timing.
I just want to say, flash forward to today, where this idea of the starving artist feels very outdated. because we see so many examples of people who are using their art and getting paid well for it. And it's not just web design that's happening in. There's a huge opportunity for creatives of all kinds, jobs that didn't exist before, to really monetize what you're passionate about by reaching an audience who needs what you have and showing up to serve them. And I think that's just why I'm so excited to be working with you three right now, because we're in this conversation of how do we help more people tap into that and be aware of this opportunity and capitalize on this opportunity so they can serve while doing what they love.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things, as Unconventional Life started, and most of our listeners know, began from that near-death experience, which then was like an idea, a vision of seeing entrepreneurs gathering and Bali coming out in a retreat. And it was so bootstrapped. Like I had no knowledge, no expertise, no qualifications, no templates. There was yoga retreats. There weren't life and business accelerators. Even with Forbes, I wrote a 3-page paper on why podcasting was going to be a big thing in 2016 and what the concept of unconventional life meant. And here we are coming into 2026, and it's like, look at unconventional life. It's like fully alive, in the world. And to be able to trust your vision without the qualifications, but just the feeling that more is coming. And then watching those pieces come in, I think, is what is so special. And, if Unconventional Life grew, we did events in all 7 continents. We've supported so many people. And one of the things people would always say is there's something about your brand. There's just this vibe. There's this inexplicable feeling, this essence. And that I call magnetism. And what does it take to really be magnetic in your work? And especially, in today's world where you could easily say that there's 1,000,001 coaches, there's 1,000,001 podcasts, like everybody's doing what you may want to do. Sometimes it's easy to go, well, what do I have to offer? What's my unique edge? Is it my timing available for me? Is this still possible? And that's where I think learning the foundation of magnetism and how to pull these opportunities towards you, you're like this feeling, like you walk in and someone's like, I don't know what it is about her or him, but she's got the vibe. And that's what I've always tried to do through congruency, through family, through art, and collaboration that's allowed that. And I know, that was one of the things on why all 3 of us joined forces was, especially in the branding and creative development, people would say, who does your graphics? Who does your websites? Like there's something about you, like it feels congruent on and off camera. And we got together and founded Pink Lemon, which the principal was a female-led creative marketing agency, for those of our listeners who might not know, that focused on empathic, authentic marketing that was designed for women. Talk about those old days where it was like, exploit the pain, give them the FOMO. And it's like, not that that's not like wrong or whatever, but it's not effective. And I think we're in this
marketing has evolved.
Marketing has
so
evolved
much.
1000%.
It used to be so predatory, right?
It was. And it would literally make you feel like crap. Like instead of like a buy purchase where you were like expanded and I love it, it was like, okay, I'm going to go buy this and hope I don't die. Like behind the scenes, like it is completely evolved and we've evolved. And I think what it takes to really be magnetic in today's world and have magnetic messaging, like that's who I'm seeing trump. And that's why we're really excited to support, but particularly what's possible and what we're calling lifestyle freedom. How do you be magnetic in all areas of your life, in your business, in your career, your lifestyle, both of you as new moms in this last, year or so, and how do we really weave it all together?
Well, I think you hit something really important, which is saying it's easy to say there's already hundreds of thousands of people doing the thing you want to do out there. Mm-hmm. Because I think a prerequisite to magnetism is actually accepting that surrender will be required, that you will have to wake up every day and choose to build something and trust that something more is being created. Even if the evidence isn't coming in right away, it's the capacity to actually embody a higher frequency of possibility. Think about what you just said about unconventional life. 10 years later, looking back, if you could have talked to yourself in 2016, what would you have said to that version of yourself?
I would have said, hold on, but it's a continual iterative process, right? And I think that having the right mentors and support, but particularly, many of our listeners also know that I got really sick in 2020 and I built this extraordinary thing that took off by all means. It was Forbes and Inc. and all this stuff. But the way that I was running my energy and my lifestyle is almost like my personal life felt like an afterthought. Like I was like traveling the world and everyone's like, she's doing all this cool stuff. And it was cool. But the human element of who did I go to bed with that night and who did I wake up with and how much space and time did I have for myself? What was the quality of my romantic relationships? Was I actually a good friend? Was I a person that I admired and respected? Publicly, yes, but privately? And that inquiry, I think, led me, the last 5 or 6 years of unconventional life through getting sick, being diagnosed with early onset of MS from autoimmune, Lyme's disease flares ups, all these different things where it was unsure if I would even continue to go, well, if I am going to continue, then what does it get to look like now? And I think that's the biggest opportunity our listeners have. And I know one thing that we all stand for and what I'd love to talk about, which is this concept of lifestyle freedom. And I think most people engineer, they go, I'll have the idea, and this is how I did it first. I'll create the thing. And then when I have the money, I will go have the lifestyle I want. But what I find through clients and different people who come to events over the years and friends, they build this machine, but when they get to the money, they don't have the time. They don't actually have the lifestyle. They're exhausted at the end of the day. They're overweight. They're not strong. They're missing longevity, whatever it might be. It differs for each one of us. So I started to look at, well, what does it take to do that in reverse? How do you engineer your lifestyle first and build the business and all the components backwards? And I think when I look at those that are really excelling right now, they're doing just that.
I think we can all relate to that. I mean, I certainly during my web design career, had a stint where I was working the ideal job in a company that was paying me very well for the web design. But I was looking at my life and thinking, oh my gosh, some days I work 12 hours and some days I work 16 hours. And I feel I'm living with this sense of guilt that I'm not showing up for my family and my relationships the way that I want to, So you can have on paper this sense of having made it in a financial dimension, but to be at the exclusion of all these other things. I think so many people disconnect, so many people connect to that in their own way. And I think that's why this conversation is so relevant. We're realizing that we want time freedom. We want time to be spending with our loved ones. We want health. We want to be thriving across different dimensions of our life.
Well, I think there's almost an addiction to these words, time freedom, location freedom, and marketing has in some ways become really saturated with the message that if you just do this strategy, then you're going to make money, and over focusing on the wealth piece alone negates the holistic understanding of how you wake up in your own body every day, who you choose to surround yourself, and what is actually the greater why? Why even bother making a change, going out of your comfort zone, committing to a path of communion with your gifts and creativity and self-expression? And it looks different for all of us. I think about lifestyle freedom for me would be like spending 2 months in Norway in my van and hiking in the midnight sun, climbing mountains all the time. And I know, Jules, I don't think that would be your lifestyle freedom.
Maybe like a couple days of that, but I don't know about 2 months of that. Maybe like a long weekend. But that's the beauty though, is that each version of that is different. And I think that ultimately comes down to, I know we've got this course that's launching and, this program called The Business of Being You, which is really much more than just an educational tool, though Unconventional Lifers, we will link you on how to find The Business of Being You and check that out, because it really is the culmination of almost 3 decades worth of experience. I started my first 6-figure company at 18, 7-figure company at 22, lost it all at 24 to an embezzlement, had a near-death experience, rebuilt everything at 25. And, through the decades of what I've done, through the decades also of what you've done, Mary, and marketing and your background and Raya and design and education, we come with a wealth of knowledge, but knowledge is great to the degree that it's applicable to you specifically. And the Business of Being You's concept is really, how do you look at the culmination of all these unique parts of your self-expression, all these parts of your gift, your artist? For me, it's this music artist, the person who loves to create, cook in the kitchen, who loves to travel, host experiences, geek out on marketing, have time with family, love on my dog, Ella. How do I say that each piece matters and not that they're competing? And I think a lot of times, when I thought about business and being you, it was like business and me. There was like 2 separate things. There was the business and there was you. But when I find the more I compartmentalize, like bring my music into my business, bring my family into what I'm doing, the more potent the overall product, message, and quality of life actually becomes available. So I'd love to shift to talk about that a little bit on the capacity of what's available for people in this concept of the business of being you, and particularly for people that are tuning in right now that, you know, for some time, maybe they've tried different starts. They've had starting businesses and haven't gotten the results that they've wanted, or they're in a transition and they're wanting something else, but that internal knowing doesn't match that external reality yet.
Well, Jules, I think a really good intersection into this topic is what you've said about the intersection of identity and income. Because as a female-led creative marketing agency, one thing we really excel at is safety and creating environments where your nervous system is prioritized. Because I can't tell you how many of our past clients, let's say they've had a corporate job, super successful saleswomen, salesmen, but then it comes time to launch their own thing and they just freeze up.
They tense up.
Yep.
And it comes with part of that belief system of like, I can sell as long as it's for somebody else. But the second that I have to put myself out there and show up and say, hello world, this is who I am and what I do, there's a lot of contraction.
So scary.
And even on the flip side, as long as I'm not charging for this thing that I'm really good at, then like totally cool. So as long as identity is like really low stakes and income's over here and they're silo, there's no traffic jam.
Yes, visibility is safe when it's free.
Right.
The second you have to actually put a number on what your services cost and not just put a number on it, but defend a higher number.
And ask for it.
Ask for it. It becomes this assault on your concept of worthiness. And we start to question and spiral into doubt and shrink ourselves immediately.
I noticed that so much in our work with Pink Lemon. I'm telling you, I was like, okay, so on paper, we're doing the branding, like on one level, the surface level, we seem to be doing the branding and these strategy sessions and the strategy and the copywriting. But there's a whole other thing that's going on here. If you look at relationships as divine appointments and you delve underneath the surface of what's happening, I feel that we're giving people permission to really bring their gifts into the world and to have a conversation with themselves about what are my gifts that I've been divinely given? How do I now relate to these gifts as worthy of being shared? How do I feel confident and comfortable with, these gifts and the skills that I've worked at and with my story such that I'm now willing to share it and I now regard my sharing it as being good, as, you know, I'm able to serve and it's going to be a blessing unto someone else. And there was like a whole conversation around that for a lot of people, as well as the courage and the confidence to put themselves out there and step out into the world. And I started to see myself as like, after especially becoming a mom, I was like, I think I'm a doula for ideas. I was like, I'm like standing in the birthing room with these people who are scared to put themselves out there and bring these wonderful ideas and these wonderful gifts from the abstract into the tangible, such that they can be interacted with in the real world and can have an effect on other people's lives.
Yeah, I think that's well said. And even those, whether they're starting completely from scratch or it's about going to the next level. And I talk about this concept of the zone of turbulence. And if you, think about astronauts, right? They get into this rocket, they're training for what it's going to feel like when they're about to burn up, literally leaving the Earth's atmosphere. Like, talk about what that training must be like. And then they launch into space, and then they're in the moment where they're about to go into the next solar system. And they're literally like, burn up, burn up, burn up, burn up. And there's not really an eject button at this point. So nervous system on full overdrive, they can't eject out of the rocket. You've got to learn to breathe through and hold the capacity. Because if you can't breathe through and hold the capacity, you literally will not make it into space. And when you think about things in your life, we hit these predictable ceilings. One thing I love tracking, if you really knew me, is patterns. We hit these predictable ceilings, and instead of going to the next level of income, the next level of opportunity, visibility, stages, even relationships, you might touch it and then something happens. An illness, client backs out, an opportunity falls through, and then boom, 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 time goes and we do it again. Boom, 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 fall back down. We do it again. And I think when you can learn to master, to your point, Mary, about nervous system regulation, and your point, Raya, about safety, how to hold the tension of a zone of turbulence, how to expand into a greater domain. That really is where these next levels of possibility and what I call the domain of potentiality, where these miracles consistently happen on demands, become accessible to you. But without the prerequisite of learning how to have those foundational components, especially someone who's been in this industry for almost 20 years now, I watch people burn out all the time. We lose sustainability. And if you're in the inquiry of growth and evolution, success over the course of a lifetime, right? Then what is it like to really learn the foundations, the business of being you that support that? Talk about regulations on starting to become moms and having children, these different life transitions and seasons. And I think that's when I think people I admire the most are really excelling in that. And that's our desire to really teach from that place.
One thing I love about what you just said is if you're in the business of being you, then there's an element where it's an alive and dynamic thing. It's not the separation between business and you, but really the marriage of them. And I have to think, ladies, so I just started a new Instagram account to teach people how to do handstands. I'm about to launch my first handstand course.
At Learn to Handstand, we'll link the link in our show notes, unconventionallifeshow.com.
Well, the point is I'm starting something totally from scratch. And I've been doing a lot of marketing for a lot of years and sure, putting myself out there here, but I have never, ever put myself out there for something that is so niche and so personal to me. And I have even come up with some of these zones of turbulence myself. I'm launching a Christmas masterclass called Slay Your Handstand, pun intended, like Santa's sleigh. And I did a Christmas shoot. I wrapped some empty boxes with wrapping paper so I could balance them on my feet. And I was trying to do a one-arm handstand and stack the presents. And my husband was filming. And I would come down, I would mess up my handstand and be like, oh. And I literally have it on video of me just saying, I just suck. This is so hard. And right in the moment, I was able to catch it and just recognize that, wow, naturally, this resistance is coming up, and actually being able to stand in this resistance and get back up, do the handstand, whatever. It's an essential part, but even more of that, being able to choose joy is an essential part, because I think a lot of burnout comes is when we're in this prolonged state of nervous system activation, and that natural current of resistance, because identity and income are starting to intersect, comes up, and it just stops being fun. And that's the real motor here.
Yeah. As you were talking about that Unconventional Life, you should have seen our Thanksgiving this year. So Mary decides, this little anecdote, side note, to go get how many toilet paper rolls?
100.
I spent like $60 on toilet paper.
$60 on toilet paper rolls. And she has these big lighting. And if you were in the room with us, you see we have these big lights that are here.
She took over my living room.
She took over
we had a whole conversation.
We moved the couches,
and
the
ball
baby
pit.
carrier, the ball pit. She gets in this handstand, puts her legs like flat for those on camera like this, and a little cardboard. And it was to see how many toilet paper rolls we could stack on Mary's legs in a handstand. So naturally, I'm watching from above first. I see where the indiscrepancies are, and I go down after it fails quickly, and I'm like, look, here's what we got to do. So we get in a system with Raya's husband as well, and I think you had 70 some rolls.
I had a lot of toilet paper rolls.
By the third or fourth attempt, 70 some rolls of, but I share that because most people, when they hit resistance, if you don't have the knowledge and skills, right, on how to hold a zone of turbulence, regulate your nervous system, and then the experience of success that you can do it, that can be challenging. But B, which is the last part I want to talk about in our segment here today, ladies, is structures for fulfillment. If you don't have a structure, for example, an astronaut structure is I'm training to go to space. So there is a game big enough that requires you to overcome that resistance. In Thanksgiving's moment, the game big enough was I'm going to sure as heck see if every single toilet paper roll I bought can get on my legs. And I think we got down to only 4 or 5 left.
We were so close.
I think if we were to redo it again, I do think you could get there.
It was pretty hard, guys.
But the structure was there. She was invested, right? She bought $6 of toilet paper rolls. She ordered lights on Amazon. She had her whole family. People were filming. My dad was narrating. And a side note, my dad started vlogging when he and my mom, when they did the Camino Santiago in Spain.
Oh my
And they put a little compilation video together,
He
and it was
spams
like,
the family thread.
oh my
It's
gosh.
so cute.
And what did he say? He was like, this is Matt signing out. Or what was his signature that he had?
That's it. Signing off.
That's absolutely it.
Signing off.
You know we're gonna eat those up one day, though.
I know. So anyways, so here's Mary filming, signing off. But the structure was there. The stakes were high enough. And I think most people that can listen to this conversation, you can go, well, that's a great conversation. But to really feel compelled to act from this conversation, to take the desires, the dreams, the visions you have and expand into action, most of the time people think, I need to have X, Y, and Z in order to do so. In my opinion, you need a little tickle, a little flicker. It is. I call it, it's like the, it's just this little buzz, and we all feel it in our own way. Sometimes we feel it as complete terror and anxiety, like, oh. Sometimes it's like excitement. Most of the times for me, it's that sweet spot of nervous and excited where I feel like I'm either batshit crazy or totally onto something. I feel that and I'm like, I'm leaning in. But that little, I call it flicker of potentiality, gives us this inclination that more is coming. And just like the timing of a wave with surfers in the water, for those that have surfed or watched people surf, you get in the water, if you ever boogie boarded, waves come in, you literally have a split second to decide to give it everything you got, paddle, stand up and catch the wave. You hesitate for a second. The wave goes, you might stand up, but you miss it. You hit the precise timing of that wave, and the moment that it's there, you ride that wave all the way into shore. And I want Unconventional Lifers you to hear some things in this conversation, like we're in the water. A wave is here right now. And a wave, you might have been in the water for a long time watching the waves. Oh, maybe I'll get up on that one. Oh, that's kind of big. I'll try that one. Hesitate, get up a little bit. Some of you might have had some accidental high riders all the way into shore, and you're like a one and done hit wonder. You're like, and I'm never doing that again.
I just want to speak to the crowd of people, though, that are like sitting on the shore and like hyping themselves to even get up in the water. Because that's, I mean, you said you're filming for Instagram. You're pretty far in your journey to at least be in the medium now, such that you're encountering that level of resistance. And I definitely fell into the category of being so terrified to put myself out there that I was avoiding it entirely, convincing myself I was being productive, of course, by learning more and gaining more knowledge and consuming information and hyping myself. But let's be honest, I was not in the water for a second. Or if I was, I might dip my toes in and then run out, okay?
Well, you can be busy and productive until it's time to be seen for it.
Or forever learning. And you said a great point.
Forever
Consuming,
learning.
podcast taking, course taking.
You think you're being productive, but you're not, because the real work is visibility. And the real work is confronting, through the nervous system that all this fear that we hold there. And just willing to be seen, put ourselves out there, charge for our gifts. It's terrifying.
And willing to believe, too. Yes. I really have to think of my own journey because I have like less than 200 followers on Instagram. And even somebody who's done all this mindset work, it's discouraging. I'm like, does anybody actually care about what I have to say? And are people judging me? And I'm just some super cringe handstand freak. But at the end of the day, one, who cares? And two, I believe I have a message to share.
Dude, I haven't seen anyone doing Instagram. She even, like, that you're doing it. She even put, like, a whole rap song that she narrated.
I rapped about the rotator cuff.
Yeah. Do you want to give a little demo of that?
Please do the demo.
Quick demo? Just so our listeners can get the...
I feel really put on the spot.
Just quick little...
I think one quick demo was like... Injury-free when training is rough. That's the stabilizing science of the rotator cuff. I went through the 4 core muscles of the rotator cuff and rapped about them.
You want to keep going?
I feel a little like an
injury-free. That's the rotator cuff. I could get down with that.
I don't know if I even remember it off the top of my head. I just remember things like subscapularis on the lesser tubercle, shoulder mobility from my glenohumeral.
Which is like great, and I think the testament though of this whole conversation, and this is kind of where I want to, wrap up our conversation today, which really is in the inclusion, right, of all the parts of ourselves and coming back to the structure of fulfillment, right, without a good community, without a support structure, without a game and a stake that's high enough, you can forever be on the beach, dipping in the water, thinking that you're getting closer to swimming. Then you could even be in the water thinking that you're getting closer to actually catching the wave and then beating yourself up over not riding a wave, which would just be ridiculous. How many missed moments Do we say, oh, if I could just only send that email, I've been thinking about that. God, I've been trying to start that podcast for forever. That book, I've been thinking about it. That business, and years go by.
Gosh, we can spin our wheels in that place. The tension of knowing that you could have another life if only you could break through that threshold in the rocket ship.
And then the self-judgment when you're not making the choice.
And it stacks. And I think that's also part of why we've joined forces. And what our family has become for a greater family is to provide the capacity and opportunity to not let each other off the hook. And in this life, in this precious unconventional life that we all have and define in our own way, like, why not? You know? Like, I started writing pop music 2 years ago, and I'm releasing stuff under Jules King, Nashville pop star, pop soul artist, I think is what we're calling it.
It is
but
so inspiring.
It's like, you know, but
Yeah.
why not? You know?
Why not? And I think the space right now also, as a final point, is really obsessed with strategy. And now with the age of AI, you literally can just you have all the strategies in the world at your fingertips. But the truth is, if strategy alone were what you needed, you would have already done the thing a really long time ago. And so as a sister family, we think all those skills are, by the way, wildly important. Knowing how to set up marketing funnels, how to host your first online masterclass, start an email list, do all of those pieces. But thinking that that's what it is in isolation is, one, misguided, and two, doesn't represent the full capacity of the lived human experience of releasing any self-judgment or belief that you can't, and stepping into the full unwavering conviction that you 100% can and can be joyful and love every second of it.
Absolutely. So Unconventional Lifers, we're going to jump into this hot lightning rapid fire round. We have a giveaway for our listeners that we're going to talk about, and exactly how to start finding some more of this content at Live Unconventional, also at unconventionallifeshow.com/thebusinessofbeingyou, where we really break down the nuts and bolts into a 90-minute nerd geeky presentation and really experimental and experiential workshop on how you can start taking action to implement some of this stuff. Lightning questions, ladies. Are we ready?
Let's go.
Yes.
All
Let's
right.
do it.
Question number 1, fill in the blank. Speaking about yourself, if you really knew me, you would know what?
If you really knew me, you would know that I love juggling more than most things.
I feel like super insecure, like deep down, you know, and like kind of
Hers was way deeper than mine.
Glittery energy.
All right, rapid fire.
Anxiety puppy.
Rapid fire out. All right, next question. What is one practice that you do regularly that you feel sets you up for success?
It's called cross mapping. I learned it from the Somatic Coaching Academy. It's a nervous system practice where you be with sensations, magnify them, and make space for all the range of the human experience.
I pray, absolutely non-negotiable, to plug into the light on a daily basis.
Absolutely. Lastly, when you think about living the unconventional life, what does that mean to you?
I want to build my own circus space that I will turn into a residency center that will meet American circus artists and become a circus philanthropist, so that all levels of artists can have the support and infrastructure they need to create badass circus shows.
For me, it means having the courage to beat to your own drum in a world that wants to hand you a script, and instead live a life that's true to yourself, that really maximizes your joy and fulfillment.
Amazing. Unconventional Lifers, the Pink Lemon Agency, the Schroeder sisters with more additional names due to some marriages, but we're all here.
By the way,
Of the
most
same
people
family.
call our agency Pink Lemonade. It's not Pink Lemonade. It's Pink Lemon
That
Agency.
was only one person, but
No, it's
we were
happened a few
laughing.
times. It's happened a few times.
Pink Lemonade. We should incorporate that into our branding. All of us on the beach.
It's catchy.
Sipping lemonade.
Super catchy.
Yeah.
Upcoming photo shoot.
So let's talk about this giveaway we've got for one of our listeners, Unconventional Life Showers. So we wanted to do something really, really fun for those of you that want to amplify your message, your brand, have a breakthrough with your voice visibility. We are putting together a bonus 30-minute consultation call where you can apply to be the winner. Literally, Mary is going to audit your copy. Raya is going to audit your design. I will be there as well. We'll talk about your overall strategy of how to take these ideas that you have, especially if you feel like you've been a little stuck or stagnant at an inflection point. We really thrive in those doulas, soul doula moments of what's next. So you'll get the opportunity to have a 30-minute consultation. We are also going to select one lucky winner to be able to come with us in person at an Unconventional Life event and get some hands-on VIP coaching.
Oh my gosh.
So we're going to talk about that. You'll have to come to the Unconventional Life event, but we will give you a VIP day with us on the back end of that, and we'll map stuff out for a couple hours with you. So talk about like an exponential, like 2,500, whatever, probably $5,000 value type of thing. This is our giveaway for today. So head over to unconventionallifeshow.com, click on the giveaway tab. As a reminder, giveaways are open 1 week after the episode airs. So catch us live every single Monday, especially on our Sisters episode, and make sure to win that giveaway. And if you really feel like this giveaway is for you, please go ahead, send us an email, hit us up on social, let us know why you feel like you should win. And for those that also want to learn more about Pink Lemon, want to learn more about the agency, all the different things as well, we have a lot of great resources, tools, content. What's the best place for people to do all that?
pinklemonagency.com.
Amazing. And at Live Unconventional.
At Live Unconventional on the Instagram.
Amazing. We will put all those links, Unconventional Lifers, up at our show notes, unconventionallifeshow.com. Thank you for tuning in with us today.
Thank you.
I love it.
So fun to be able to kick this off. We've got some really great stuff coming, but in the meantime, stay you and enjoy the business of being you. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Sister Tribe. Woo!